Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to prune a determinate type tomato. This is a San Marzano variety from Gardener's Basics that I got on Amazon, and it says right here, tomato type determinate. And what that means is that it's got a predetermined height that it'll grow to, probably about 4 to 6 feet, and then it'll stop growing, and you'll get basically all of your fruit will mature at about the same time, and then you harvest it, and then your plant is done. So it's a good idea to plant maybe more than one in a season. If you want different harvest dates or something, you may need more than one plant. Now, when I first started gardening, I didn't really know why anyone would want to prune their plants. Why isn't nature best, right? Like, why bother pruning? And the reason basically is to help the plant focus on creating that big, juicy, plump fruit instead of producing more leaves that aren't really what you want. Another thing to keep in mind is when to prune. And I would say, and a lot of other gardeners agree, the sooner you prune, the better. And that's because if you take a look at some of the suckers that we may trim off of this plant, you'll notice the size of this sucker right here, for example, is pretty big, that stem. And if I were to cut that, that's a pretty big hole to make in that stem. Whereas some of these younger suckers down here, it's much smaller. I could probably pinch it off with my hands and I won't put nearly as much damage on the stem of the plant. So more damage and like a bigger exposed hole, that's just access for fungus and disease and pests to get in. Before we move forward with the pruning, you're going to want to make sure that you have a sterilized pair of shears. And the way that I do it is just taking some isopropyl alcohol that I got, from the grocery store or drugstore, and a washcloth like this. Kind of put some on your washcloth until it's wet, and just rub those blades to sterilize your shears. Our shears in gardening are used for a lot. We trim off diseased branches, fungus-filled branches or stems, and the last thing you want to do is propagate diseases from one plant to another. So don't forget that important step. All right, guys, let's get into how to prune the tomato plant. First step on this tomato plant, I want you to identify your main stem. This is the big one that it should go all the way up to the top of the plant. Okay, and on the determinate type tomato, you'll see a flower node right at the top, right like we see here. But after you identify that main stem, I want you to look closely for your first flower node. And this is a perfect example of our first flower node. And we're going to go right down, and you'll notice this is a sunleaf and one sucker. We're going to allow ourselves to keep this sucker. And then you go down and you're going to follow the main stem, and what we're going to do is look for other suckers, which are right here, these 45-degree angle ones. This is a sunleaf and this is a sucker. This guy we're going to prune right off. And then, working on down the plant, prune that sucker off. And as you get lower and lower, the suckers are younger and younger. So you should be able to just pinch off that sucker. And some of these leaves that are really low, I would just cut them off. You don't have to, but eventually they will fall down and fall to the ground, and you don't want leaves touching the ground. They'll just it's just an avenue for pests and disease to get in. And there we have it, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Look at our beautifully pruned tomato plant.